8 races down, 2 to go. It's been a campaign filled with wild chills, thrills, and many thrilling battles. But when it comes to the fight for a championship, you have to be the most consistent. Brandon Hawken has been the most consistent throughout the campaign for Global SimRacing, with his greatest campaign yet in the history of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge, with several race victories, a majority of the poles, and, as well, some of the least amount of incidents throughout the campaign. He has a chance to clinch today. Yame Torres, though, put himself in contention and then some last week. If he performs like he did with a victory at Road Atlanta, he has a chance to force the championship fight to one final race to close off the campaign at Silverstone. While Albus Rankin has an outside shot after being in contention all campaign, Little King looks to try and break his way into a 3-car fight for the final race of the season. The question is, though, who will come away with the race victory at Sebring International Raceway, and who will control their destiny? We're about to find out as we welcome you to today's edition of the Sim Experience Countdown to Green, live from the virtual Sebring International Raceway for round 9 of Season 5 of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Stefan Schlacker. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. This is going to be an interesting race, to say the very least, for these MX-5s. With that, let's take a look at our track for today, Sebring International Raceway, for our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course.
That's a look at GSRC track guide for Sebring International Raceway. Remember, the countdown to green is brought to you by the Sim Experience AccuForce steering system. With the most advanced tuning features on the market, the AccuForce Direct Drive is second only to the real thing. To check out the entire Sim Experience line of products, head on over to simexperience.com. And Stefan, let's talk about this racetrack for today. We've talked about it a little bit, where you've defined it as a drafting track. But you have to keep in mind, there's also the very technical first half of this racetrack.
Yeah, in a normal track car, it would most definitely be technical. In the MX-5, it's not really too technical. You're only shifting down one gear and then just kind of roll it through those turns. But characteristics, it most definitely has a little bit of a twisty section. It has a little bit of a flowy section in that second sector, all the way through Cunningham, Collier, and into Tower Turn. But all in all, it is a draft track for this MX-5. The thing is, though, all the danger spots that you normally have, turn 1, the exit there, extremely bumpy, Sunset Bend, extremely bumpy throughout. You don't really have those as danger zones in the MX-5. The only real danger zone is that you fall asleep going through turn 1 and hit the inside wall. That is a thing. You could also do that at Sunset Bend because it's such a long, prolonged turn in the MX-5. So really not too many danger spots for these cars, but that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of passing opportunities. You still have the Hairpin, you still have Cunningham. So the Allman Straight, still very, very good passing opportunities. And the thing is, with that little bit of a technical section in that first sector, you have great fuel-saving opportunities if you stay behind there and save down the very long straights.
Going to be very important, absolutely, and this is going to be an intriguing race, to say the very least, for today, especially for our championship competitors when it comes to driving around this more than 3-mile circuit. For Brendan Hawken, as talked about, he comes into tonight with the points lead in 4 victories throughout the campaign, as well as the majority of your pole awards so far in Season 5. Yami Torres, with the win last week at Road Atlanta, reduced the points gap to 29 after the 2 drop weeks were inserted for this series. Elvis Rankin's third, 38 points back. Those drivers will all be fighting for the prize pool in regards to the winning items you will get in the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. We'll talk about that in a moment. Robert Hartley, Juan Fernandez round out the top 5. Those drivers looking to secure a 4th or better in the point standings. Also in that conversation entering today. Speaking of conversations, let's discuss your race details for today.
Yeah, as we already said, we are in one of the last rounds of the season, round 8 of 10. As always, the race length is fixed to 40 minutes, as well as the baseline that is fixed to your iRacing baseline. So if you can drive that, you most definitely can drive in this series. However, the fuel has been reduced a little bit, where they can only run 20 minutes in this race, or actually 25 minutes in this race. So they will have to make a pit stop to make it till the end. We're also expecting them to take 2 left side tires here today. A little bit of a point here already for the race. And as always, the paints pay out all the way to 15th place with an incident cap of 20 incidents, and you're done.
Drivers currently making their way around the racetrack for qualified. Live timing and scoring is available for today's race at gsrc.tv to keep up with your favorite teams and drivers. Once again, that's gsrc.tv around this racetrack. And there's a lot to talk about this said racetrack for today. For one, the fuel limit you talked about is 33%. It's now strictly put in for the race cars in general now, not just in the setup as a whole as you talked about, but as well. For these drivers today, they're dealing with a track temperature of 81 degrees Fahrenheit. That sounds normal, right? With 78 degrees air temp. That's usually the standard. But the iRacing service with the new build changed how the track temperatures may register, Stefan, where now they retain more heat from the cars as they run around the racetrack.
Yeah, and it's a good thing because, as you said, they retain that more temperature if the cars run over it for a very long time. So we might see the temperatures hold out for a little bit longer at the 81 Fahrenheit that we see right now throughout the race. Because remember, we are at sunset time, so they are running with the sun sitting right into their face at sunset bend, which might also be a tiny bit of a trouble spot, but I don't think really it's going to be too much troubling for these. So gonna be really interesting how that plays out today, because also the tires have changed on this car, which should give a very interesting perspective into these last races.
Want to touch upon that in just a second. We want to remind you of all the qualifying details presented by SH8 Shifter, as some of the best competitors around this series and in the MX-5s make their way around the racetrack. These drivers are taking part in 4 laps of solo qualifying right now on your screens, with 15 minutes of qualifying on the board, less than 7 minutes remaining. Strict scrutiny as well for this lone qualifying format. No drivers have been penalized for that said strict scrutiny throughout the campaign so far. Once again, this qualifying details presented by SH8 Shifter. They use only the best commercial plastics to create the high-quality 3D printed shifters you need to give it all on the track. Their commitment to detail and durability ensures that you receive the perfect shifter. Find them on the web at shiftershh.com. Keep in mind, the second place finisher in the championship receives a new shifter in the championship pool, with an AccuForce Pro V2 wheel going to your championship winner this year, with third place being given minus 273 racing gloves. Let's talk a bit about the tires now, because they're essentially the gloves of the race car. Yes, I kind of jumped a few columns there. But overall, the tires definitely have changed for these cars with the tire model, and drivers have described it being much more tighter compared to before in the baseline.
Yeah, you're saying it. It's a lot tighter, especially in those first 2 laps where it really hates to do anything but to go straight on that MX-5. It opens up a little bit through or after those 2 laps once the tires are really warm. It's also going to help us competitively in this MX-5, because we're expecting the field to be a little bit closer together for the timing that they have put in, and we've seen that already with Nico Arvilomi still being in first place with a 2-minute 25.801 right now, 19/1000 of a second ahead of Brent Hawking. So it is going to be really interesting, as I already said, in those last 2 races, because don't really know what to expect from a long run in this series, especially with how are the tires gonna feel when they put on those left side tires on the pit stop, because remember, they have that option to put on 2 tires that are essentially free to take because the fuel takes that long to go into the car. We might even see people try new strategy and not take tires whatsoever, because they don't want to deal with that the 2 left side tires to be so understeer in the first 2 laps, and potentially even be longer understeer because they are just so newer than the right side tires.
And look at that, Vicente Salas up to the top of the board. The first driver in the 25-7s, just you've seen right there. And the interesting thing with Vicente is, on top of being a driver trying to make the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series this year, on top of being in the Rallycross World Championship, took right side tires and almost won that race last week. He's now to the top of the board for the time being by about 11 one-thousandths of a second. Overall, 36 cars are on the racetrack today, and keep in mind some of the drivers up towards the top are interesting ones, including real world driver John Allen making an appearance today, who took part in a test race earlier today where he had no less than 11 incident points in 20 minutes.
Yeah, obviously that is very impressive numbers there, but you know, John Allen probably just having some fun there in that race, so really nothing to go by. Right now he is sitting in that 6th place, 7/10 faster than he put in practice, and it might be an interesting joker here in this race, because, well, he has that real life advantage over those other guys.
Also taking a look at Robert Hartley, he was your quickest driver in practice as well in the 33. He's now on his 3rd lap. You can see though in time though that he is coming around for only one more attempt. His teammate Elvis Rankin, he's had a stellar year under his wing for Orion Race Team. We've seen him be quick just about every single week. He needs to bump up by about a couple tenths and does. He's up to the pole at 2:25.768.
Yeah, as Hayden Gober is coming over the line, it seems like right now, maybe with a good time. He is having only just a few more tenths there, and it's just about faster, but it's no improvement for him whatsoever. What about Brandon Hawking, who now crosses the start-finish line for his lap? That was a 26.008, so that's not an improvement.
So Brandon Hawkin, only the 2nd time this season, Stefan, if I remember correctly, he will not be your pole sitter, as that was his 4th and final lap you were referring to on the racetrack. For Juan Fernandez, he's been good on the draft tracks all season too, Stefan, where he won, remember, 3 wide at the stripe at Daytona.
Yeah, and he is really good at predicting where he has to put his car. And yeah, you said it, it's the 2nd time he's not going to be sitting on pole, but he is still going to be in that 2nd row, so no harm, no foul whatsoever there for Brandon Hawking, as we see just the last couple of cars crossing the start-finish line with about 1 minute to go.
Only 2 drivers have yet to set times. One is not on circuit, that is Justin Taylor. Caleb Hydes has an incident point on all of his laps so far. Thomas Schmidt in P18 up to 16th. That time by with the 2:26.989. The separation for the top of the board to the bottom of the board is currently about 7 seconds. Lee Martin in 30th position is currently 3 seconds off your pole time. Not going to be able to bump his way up into the top 20. In fact, he's slower on his final lap around. And this could be one of the tricky things, right? If you don't have a lot of practice time, it could hurt you for this race today, especially for even some of the veterans like Caleb Hydes we've seen up towards the front, where there's a reason there were several practice races today in preparation for this one.
Yeah, and we just saw a good jump by Adi Hero, who jumped from 25th all the way up to 14th with his last attempt here, going about a 2nd faster. And yeah, it is going to be extremely important, your track position here, because, well, this track doesn't really offer too many danger zones. It changes drastically in the width of the track surface, so you can go 4 wide like into turn 1, 4 wide, no problem whatsoever, but the exit is just about wide enough to fit 2, maybe 3 cars there, so you really have to be careful where you put your car.
Qualifying is now wrapped up. All drivers have taken times except for Justin Taylor. That leads us to our Pitbox.io starting grid. Pitbox.io is a new cloud-based data platform. Most drivers, engineers, and coaches to store, analyze, and share data, some track notes, and car setup to better improve performance on the racetrack. Visit Pitbox.io to get started, as it's Elvis Rankin who will get us started from the pole position today. A 2:25.768, followed by Vicente Salas. Nico Arilomi will start in 3rd today, with Brandon Hawkin, your points leader, looking for a victory today to secure a championship. Robert Hartley starts in 5th. The veteran will start alongside the rear-world veteran in John Allen. James Sharp starts in 7th today for Movado Sim Racing, with Clifford Evans for NX Racing in 8th. Yame Torres, your winner last week, starts in 9th, and Rafael will round out your top 10 for Trident Racing.
The number 4 of Juan Manuel Fernandez will only start in 11th place, so he will have to work his way up into the top part of this class. With Jordan Buckmeyer lining up beside him in 12th, Daniel Ariel Munoz 13th, Arihero with a last lap heroics 14th place. He's going to start. Shane Sullivan 15th, Kelly Hart 16th, Mathieu Herman will start in 17th with Rui Coimbra, not where we expect him normally, only 18th place on the grid, with the 128 of Thomas Schmidt 19th and Anthony Burrows running out your top 20.
Real quick way through it. The rest of your grid, 21st goes to Kenny Brady, Jonas Seeger 22nd, Adam Merrick will start in 23rd with Odise Adams Jr. 24th, George Fike expecting a much tighter field today in 25th position, while Salvador Paulding starts 26th, and Gilbert, Rodrigo, Capoletto, Rachel Williams, Hal Brem round out the top 30. Rest of the field, Lee Martin, Ryan Pandesino, Dylan, Den Haas, Sabalix Prem, Jacques Wald, rounding out your qualifiers. And again, Justin Taylor did not set a qualifying time in the 67. Once again, your starting grid presented by pitbox.io. Visit pitbox.io to get started as we are all set to go. Green lights are up. We're underway from Sebring. And Rafael Perez had a bad start, hit a bit of the rev limiter, causing near 3 wide behind him and in front of him. James Sharp trying to fight side by side. Fernandez thinking about 4 wide as the leaders are all single file in front.
Yeah, James Sharp also with a very bad start. There's still 3 wide going out of turn 1, but it seems like everybody was able to survive turn 1 for the first lap around. But this is the first throttle spot, turn number 2.
No trouble for many of the drivers. Of note, Rodrigo Capoletto did not get started on the grid. Started from the pit lane today. He's starting about 10 seconds back of the rest of the field. For Vicente Salas, though, still up to the race lead after the jump. Trying to hold off Elvis Rankin, who's going for a bit of an earlier braking method early on to try and save it a little bit, it looks like, as everyone gets single file in the main pack.
Yeah, 2 wide action all the way in the main pack for about 6-7 rows deep. But it seems like, interestingly enough, everybody has been able to survive thus far.
The drivers side by side that are breaking up the main packs, by the way, Bachmeyer was fighting side by side with Shane Sullivan. Sullivan just got dove from behind and lost several positions to 16. Here we get mover off to start is Dylan Denhaus, who struggled in practice, up 8 positions to 25th already in this one. Now this is getting towards where it's the best passing sector when you're not in the grass like Elvis Rankin. Drivers throughout practice, and like you said, we're preparing for the Allman Straight, the most important part of the racetrack today. Fernandez among the drivers trying to dice his way to the bottom of the racetrack. Before then, on Clifford Evan, you seen.
Yeah, Clifford Evan, you saw it on your screen. He was right out sideways on the dirt, and that is what Juan Manuel Fernandez gave the opportunity there, but the number 4 wasn't able to bounce on that occasion. He tried it through Bishop, so this is not going to really help him now, down Allman Straight into Sunset.
It looks like Caleb Heitz may have a slowdown, having to let by several drivers in the choo-choo train. And you can see how aggressive you have to block potentially down here, Stefan. A major block from Clifford Evan. That time on Fernandez for the battle for 9th. Fernandez still taking it away to end off lap 1.
Yeah, I didn't expect for Fernandez to actually be there by the end of Allman Straight, proving me wrong, but the 4 doesn't really have to drive through Sunset Bend. Clifford Evan right now with the advantage is nearly fully clear him. A little bit of a misshift there though into the last gear. Puts Fernandez once again side by side, and now here comes the 79 to the inside. Rafael Drashashaj is going to try to put his car there, but Fernandez not gonna have that, and he's gonna defend right now that 10th place.
Good battle so far as Vicente Salas still up in the race lead, controlling that trap pack, similar to what we've seen at Road Atlanta when things broke down quickly after the big one early in that race. No trouble for anyone in the field so far in this one. Of note, Capoletto has reeled in the main pack already after being 10 seconds behind those cars. Now, one of the drivers again in this lead pack you have to keep an eye on today. We talked about Mike Allen, one of his first starts this season, Stefan. Someone that started off on iRacing, in fact. Races in time still on iRacing. made his way to the real world in about 2017 and runs in real life in the spec MX-5s.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting what he can bring into this series, knowing this car and potentially this track from real life. Charles Allen, by the way, we are talking about, not Mike Allen, like you said.
Yes.
The 101, either way, 6th place right now. He's doing a good job. He's sitting just behind, I think that's Brandon Hawking. Yes, it is Brandon Hawking. And behind him, that's the teammate of Hawking, James Sharp. So he is in good company up here, and also he is most definitely keeping up with the top pack, which is starting to separate ever so slightly from Shamar's Torres, right now sitting in 8th place.
Yeah, and Torres, remember, was one of the aggressors after getting through some of the trouble early on in that race at Road Atlanta, still approaching 5 minutes.
Cliff Rem! Slow down!
And that's going to be one of the big points today. We've seen already one driver with a slowdown in the first lap. How about a slowdown in the second one to cost you the main pack?
Yeah, he started this lap in 9th place. Now he's back all the way to 13th, actually. So he lost 4 positions there, and obviously also a major amount of time.
One of the drivers at the back of the field you've seen also had a slowdown. How tricky is it to avoid getting said slowdowns at this type of racetrack?
Well, you know, it's a sports car track, so it's really not made for the MX-5. So if you just turn in a little bit too early or scrub off a little bit too much speed, you can put yourself in danger of running a little bit too tight through, especially Le Mans. And that is the main point where you can get a slowdown, because if you just cut about 3/4 of the car over that curb, you're already gonna get quite a hefty slowdown penalty, and I think that is what first Hayden Gober and now also Clifford M were doing to get that slowdown penalty.
A battle starting to form up right behind some of these cars. John Allen has passed Brandon Hawken after he almost ran into the back end of the 99 in turn 2. Was able to still make it on through in the braking zone and make the pass cleanly. That's why part of the separation's built up. There's also behind them James Sharp trying to cut his way through some of these cars to get to Nico Arvelomi. What a start for him today. Great in qualifying. He's been one of those drivers we know has been quick in the past to fun in the series, but this year has just struggled in qualifying and has not had the track position to contend for the victories.
Yeah, in a few races he was already quite high up, as also, by the way, the lights just came on our cars. Nico Arvelomi, just remembering back to Road America, where he was actually running with the front pack until the pit stops, where he had an unfortunate small incident in the pit lane, missed his stall if I remember correctly, and that's what dropped him away from that lead pack. But once again, he is in that lead pack. It's once again a little bit of a draft track, so going to be really interesting what happens with him. Now, we have to mention, you probably saw it while we were in the chopper cam, Nico Arvelomi, he lost his position to Robert Hartley up ahead. That was because of a missed shift out of the hairpin. So that is why Robert Hartley right now is running in 3rd and Nico Arvelomi in 4th.
Oh, a bit of contact with the wall too. You just seen Elvis Rankin scrape the wall with his right side doors. Able to keep the mirror on the car, but it looks like no visual damage. That was a little bit nerve-wracking for some of these Orion cars, as Hartley taking a little bit of a peek now towards the inside of his teammate. Doesn't make the move quite yet, though, as Vicente Salas still leads this group. This grouping goes back as far back as 3 seconds to Daniel Munoz in 11th spot still.
Elvis Rankin, also one of the drivers that was rather unfortunate throughout this season. He won the first race, remember, at Okayama, but after that really didn't hold his form, had some bad races, had some bad luck, and then he really dropped back and is right now only in 3rd place in the championship standings. Most definitely wanting to get better at that, especially because Shamas Torres right now is only in 8th place. Oh, touch from behind there from Allen.
And Allen seems to be sending these cars much more deeper in the brakes compared to his competitors right here, and that seems to be tripping him up a little bit to where he's nearly hit some cars a couple times. Hawken has now gone by again. James Sharp taking a little bit of a peek as well after that as near contact again. Torres that time nearly making a back-end contact, but James Sharp in a bit of a checkup there.
And since all those people have been able to catch back up to the front pack once again, this pack has closed back into about 15th place. Actually, Arihiro right now, the last car on the lead pack, in 14th place. About, was that, 5 seconds back from the lead.
Contact we're hearing between Munoz, who had the fastest lap of the race last time by a 2:25.5, and Rafael Dracic that was in the battle for 10th position in this grouping. Still, here's one of the main key things to think about for some of these competitors. It was talked about a bit by Hawken after last week, where points are going to be a major importance if you're some of these drivers. How much does that factor in now, knowing you're at a race where you can make draft passes quickly if you need be? It looks like, though, people are patient today. Very patient.
Yeah, you know, it's exactly what I said earlier in the broadcast, where you can really save a lot of fuel down these long straights if you're willing to not overtake somebody ahead of you, as we might see a pass here. Evans Rankin goes to the inside here of Vicente Salas, or his teammate Robert Hartley also goes to the inside, gives the shove to Elvis Rankin to put him up alongside the 33, sorry, as the Vicente Salas is actually still side by side with Rankin, and Rankin not being able to take away that position. Rather interesting that Salas was able to retrain that. I did not expect it, especially around the outside at turn 1.
Some of the experience coming in from across the service, known for being able to defend fairly well when it comes to driving a stock car. Also runs in go-karts in real life. Looks like the Orion race team, though, wanting to be able to control the tempo, especially with Rankin having a chance more points and build more buffer cars with some of the air competitors, as Salas has to save it. Contact from the back end. What a save on Vicente Salas.
Yeah, good job there from the 36. Gave a little bit of a shove there, Evans Ranking to him, but was able to masterfully keep his car all together there out of the air.
And you have to wonder if this is going to continue all the way up to the pit stops at this rate. It looks like, again, Rankin and Hartley want to take over the lead. Salas opening up a bit wider into the corner, into the tower turn. Rankin, though, still not in the best passing opportunities yet as they go to the Flying Fortress straight.
Yeah, and to come back what I wanted to say earlier about Brandon Hawking and the point situation, he basically can just sit back, relax, and save that fuel. The others around him, they have nothing to lose. They just can go for every single gap if they really want to. So he really has to be careful a little bit in that sense. While he can afford to lose some points, he's not allowed to lose too many points, because then drop points come into play, and especially average ranking right now ahead of him, although he is already over 30 points back.
See if there's any moves here this time down the Almond Straight. No. Fuel save back up to advantage once more with 28 minutes to go and less on the clock. 12 estimated laps to go for these competitors across some of these bumps.
Yeah, and Elvis Ranking is starting to really square up that apex of Sunset Bend. Now it transit around the outside of the 36. Let's see how that's going to go.
We've seen it not work on the inside before for the pass. How about try the outside, shall we? As now Rankin gives a little bit of a squeeze. Vicente Salas, though, still has the preferred braking line for the entry. See if he's going to be able to stick it into turn 3 towards the Gurney Bend they go. Salas trying to still hold on as they go towards the bend. Yes, he holds on to the race lead. Rankin tries to cross him up. Check up from Hartley behind as they're still in the back bumper of the factory kart machine.
Oh, there was a little bit of a kerfuffle in the back for 9th place, as it seems like the Juan Manuel Fernandez had a little bit of a run together with some people there, as that has dropped them back.
Oh, and Nico Arilomi's now trying to jump up in the line on top of this. Some of these drivers are getting a little bit impatient now, Stefan, like we just seen the past lap, but this time it's getting to where some of the drivers wanting to break up some of the teammates possibly.
Yeah, Nico below me right now side by side with Brendan Hawking. Brendan Hawking is looking to overtake him, but also not really. The 99 just wanting to have his own piece right now. Still side by side with Nico below me, so below me might lose here 4th place to our championship leader Brendan Hawking. The Canadian still around the outside of Tower. And there we go. Nico below me, the Finnish driver, able to defend that 4th place for now.
Shane Sullivan has had an incident. He's now off the racetrack in the 91 machine. That was in the middle of Sector 2 coming out of the Cunningham corner. So significant trouble for one of our top drivers earlier this season. In the campaign, he was just outside the points, was in the points before cutting the grass on lap 3, heading through towards Le Mans Curve and towards the Almond Straight. Approaching that pit window, which is going to be so critical now. And we've seen how powerful the undercut could be in some cases if you time it up right, Stefan, with the last build. The thing is, how do you feel it's going to work with this build, especially knowing how crazy this lead has been getting now with Elvis Rankin taking away the race lead coming out of the Almond Straight to the Sunset Bend. He's now up to the point.
Yeah, it is most definitely going to be interesting. I'm expecting people to take left side tires no matter what, but obviously it is a little bit of a question mark hanging over everybody's head. If they haven't tested enough these tires, how they're going to compare after a 25-minute stint and then have new boots bolted onto the left side of your car.
And Vicente Salas able to retake the race lead. He's seen down the pit straight into turn 1 and turn 2. No one was electing that time by, it seems, to take the pit stop. Everyone elected to stay on the racetrack for their scheduled service. There are currently several packs, 1st through 14th, then there's the 15th through 19th place pack, then there's a pack for 20th through 24th, then a pack for 25th through 31st. Only one driver's been running on their own, and that was Powell Brem, who pit a lap and a half ago. Everyone else has stayed in choo-choo trains throughout the field today.
Yeah, I'm guessing with Paolo Brem, he had some issue that he needed to pit because this time around it was about 30 seconds too early for these guys to consider going into pit lane. So, yeah, should be a interesting second half of the race, especially now that they're gonna come around and the pit window wide open for these guys already. Maybe we're gonna see Ranking and Hartley try something different and actually go into pit lane. Might also see everybody stay out until the last moment and then 14 cars at once dive into pit lane.
Absolutely at this point. Of note, apparently Shane Sullivan feels his wreck may have been one of the more entertaining ones of note. We'll see if we can try and get a look towards that of note. Again, that's the 91 who had that incident on lap 6 here in this race. That incident was again at the Cunningham corner. We talked about in that respective incident, he had completely missed several cars and smacked into the tire barrier. That meant he finished off his race now in the tow lane. Still though, speaking of the drafting lane, we approach halfway on the clock, expecting next time by to reach so. Still your top drivers all sorted together for the time being. No one stuck down to the pit lane.
Yeah, and seems like, look at that, Robert Hartley goes into pit lane, but without his teammate. Is there anybody else? Yes, Brandon Hawking and his teammate James Sharp, as well as I think that Sean Martinez Torres, yes it is, and Juan Manuel Fernandez. So 5 cars of the lead group have elected to go into pit lane, joining them Ari Harrow, as well as, who is that? That's Caleb Heights and Anthony Burrows.
So Hartley, the first driver into his pit box there among those drivers. 10 laps is the distance they'll have to go. They've already ran 7 laps on their set of tires. Everyone from the lane pack, it appears, choosing to go with the left side tires. Take a look towards how the times are going to lay out, though. 16 seconds for Brandon Hawkin, 18.8 seconds for Robert Hartley. So Hawkin, the first one out.
Shalman Masters Torres, the only one to not take any tires whatsoever. So this is going to be really interesting now to see how he is going to compare, especially in the first 2-3 laps, as well as throughout the whole stint, because he is going to have those warm tires already on the left side, but he is going to have a more drop-off at the end of the race as we go back to our leading back.
Vicente Salas still up in that race lead now. with Elvis Rankin trying to stay lockstep. You'd have to think they're going to have to counter this lap, though, to try and keep up in the pace if they feel like they're going to lose time here.
Yeah, should be really interesting. Brandon Hawking was extremely fast off the pit stall. He actually was able to punch a hole of about 1.5 seconds to his competitors that pitted with him. Gonna be interesting how he fares, especially it depends on how long these guys stay out. As Elvis Rankin and Vicente Salas, we still have those top dogs together. Nico Vilomi as well right now, 3rd place in this Congo line. John Allen, 4th place right now. So I don't know, maybe they're gonna come in and prevent the undercut, or maybe they're just gonna stay out and say, hey, let's overcut these guys and have the fresher tires at the very end.
Very close to a slowdown there too was Vicente Salas. He completely skateboarded across some of that curbing you may have heard. They updated some of the engine sounds and sounds in general for the MX-5, and that in turn sees Vicente Salas reeled in down the straight by Rankin. No move, though this time into Sunset Bend. See who makes that hard right-hand turn. And it looks like everybody except for Vicente and John Allen.
Oh, Munoz!
And he, I think, may have hit one of the curves, possibly almost one of the cars to fall.
Yeah, Munoz ever so slightly was able to avoid, who was that? John Bachmeier ahead of him. He was able also to avoid the tire wall. So really great job there by him to slow down that kind of time.
I think one of the current cones got launched into the sky from that. As we take a look towards Hartley and company, we'll have to see how they cycle compared to his teammate Elvis Rankin and company. Right now, those drivers heading towards the front stretch and passing by on the front stretch. Rankin, a 17.4, faster than his teammate. However, drops behind several competitors, including Brandon Hawken, who is currently among the net drivers. Jordan Bachmeier has also been stuck on the pit limiter and held up several drivers off the pit lane.
Brandon Hawking and Elvis Rankin, the two biggest gainers right now in this race. Troubles Prem slow ahead of them. I hope he's not out of fuel or something, because he used to be really slow there into turn number 3, but he has picked up his pace again, so maybe just a little bit of an issue with his hardware, as Elvis Rankin now has to go past him, and this is going to punch a little bit of a hole here between Hawking and Rankin, as Rankin able to overtake him into the hairpin, but not Hawking.
Here comes Hawken, though, in a bad exit for, once again, Elvis Rankin off the corner. So, it's Rankin who's cycling to the net race lead for now. Vicente Salas, John Allen yet to pit, are currently in Sector 3. Clifford Eben, Rafal Drozic, along with Matthew Herman, among the drivers yet to take service. You can see they're already kicking up sparks right now. They're pushing so hard on their in-lap potentially here. They can stretch an hour lap if they so choose.
Yeah, it should be interesting what they're going to do here. Vicente Salas and second place John Allen, but I'm expecting them to go into pit lane right now. If they do have still some fuel remaining for that next lap, it wouldn't be wise to really do that, because they are such a small pack already. They would not have any benefit. And there we go, Salas as well as no, Allen actually stays out for another lap. This might be the deciding factor that he's not going to be able to stay in the lead lap pack here, but hopefully he's also going to prove me wrong.
He might also be trying to take as least amount of fuel as he can, and here's the interesting thing, there is a bump draft taking place between Hawken and Rankin down the straight to try and gain as much speed as possible on these cars. Vicente Salas, you've seen a bit of a stutter on his pit entry. Right now, we'll have to see where they cycle, since it was a 17.4 that helped get Rankin the race lead. It was a 16-second stop for Brandon Hawken. Many of the air drivers in front of them also ducking down. 15.5.
Look at Salas.
What a stop.
Holy, where did he gain all that fuel? Did he race with a tanker or something attached to him? Because he is already out of turn 1 while Rankin still in the middle of it. That is a gap of, what, 3 seconds?
He a little bit overfueled the car, remember, last week, Stefan. Might have decided, you know what, I'm going to try and get as close as I can to the gas. Trouble for Jordan Bachmeier and Daniel Munoz. They have both had to tow their race cars. Remember, they ready, hit, and nearly made contact before. We also have Rachel Williams in the mix here in a brand new paint scheme that's in the middle of this lead pack.
Yeah, gonna be interesting what happens here. Slows them down ever so slightly on the exit. This is not too good for ranking, but she was able, or she was kind of a door stopper in that draft, really helping ranking and the guys behind him to keep that door open in the draft behind Salas, as they have already closed in to about 1.3 seconds to Salas.
Take a look from Vicente Salas, shall we, as you see that closing in slowly but surely. What a past couple weeks for Vicente Salas, though. He's been in the lead pack the past few weeks. He's ran part-time to start the season. You have to think there's a lot of momentum for this series for the future if he continues to run like this, especially since he's been a threat for the victory since Road Atlanta and now this week.
Yeah, it should be really interesting what he can do from here now. It's still 1.5 races to go as John Allen drops into pit lane with his 101.
And he stretched it as far as he could go. 10 laps the distance on the fuel. We'll have to see how much gas he puts in. We've seen Vicente Salas jump up ahead with the 15.5. He might be able to get away with maybe a 14 if that's based on the math, if we're going 1 second lap here on the gas.
Yeah, I think you're somewhat right here. John Allen takes left side tires. He is gonna soon drop away from the pit stall here. 16 seconds about is the... 17.5 seconds is the stop for him, so rather normal stop for John Allen. Let's see where he drops out.
And he jumps out right in the middle of the thick of things. Coming out of the pit exit side by side for the race lead. Just about with Vicente Salas' right rear is where he meets them on the racetrack. Allen tries to take a little bit of a peek. Rankin now back in the drafting line. It's now bumper to bumper, and Brandon Hawkin has now reached them with Robert Hartley.
Yeah, I still hope that Salas was able to take enough fuel for the rest of his race, because that is just such a short pit lane time for him. And especially he is so much shorter while he was running out in the open air, so really interesting. Hopefully he didn't miscalculate his race. The pack itself, by the way, it has slimmed down a little bit, though we've only lost 2 cars. We're still at 12 for the lead pack.
And you have to think, with the fuel taking an extra, John has the ability potentially, Stefan, to push here if he takes the lead. And remember, he's been deeper on the brakes compared to these cars and nearly hit the back end of some of them twice in the brake check line as they were trying to brake at the same time, some of these cars. He can really potentially try and push here now compared to some of these other cars. Now they have the extra gas and still held on to the pack, as long as he doesn't do that as he's off the track.
Yeah, John Allen is just about saves his car, the rallycross style, over the dirt at the exit of Tower Turn. And also, by the way, we're known here at GSRC for not being able to do numbers or maths, because actually it's just 8 cars in the lead pack and not 12.
Yes, indeed, because Grotzix and Adam Merrick are still yet to pit. They're expected this time. They've stretched it to 11 laps, but they're around the mid-pack, battling for around 15th position on back in this one. Currently, the separation between Salas and Rankin now after that slide into the dirt, about 0.4 of a second. Off through Sunset Bend, a little bit more deeper is John Allen trying to get himself back into a podium position in the Advanced Auto Sports machine. We've seen how aggressive Rankin has been in turn 1 today. Taking a peek, Salas with a block. Crossover back from Rankin. He tries to lone way, tries to cross him back up to the inside wall. To the left side of Salas, off in the turn 2. Heading off to turn 3. Hard break for Elvis Rankin. Can he make it stick off the corner? Yes, Elvis Rankin to the race lead.
Gonna be interesting if Salas is able to do something here into the hairpin. He's getting a little bit of a better run, but he is about a car length back on Elvis Rankin as we start right on board with the 36 machine. Right now in 2nd place, He is getting closer. Is he going to try to go to the right side? He's looking there with 4 cones, 3 cones. He's having to brake early, but here comes John Allen to the inside.
Just couldn't get quite there as John Allen was able to make the pass along with Brendan Hawkin on Hartley and company. There's the side-by-side between Hawkin and Hartley. Allen trying to find his way to victory lane in this series. Salas looking to grind his way to victory in this series. Rankin looking for his best run since the opening rounds of the season. This is huge for the championship. Keep in mind, Torres is still in 6th in all of this.
Yeah, and ranking 3rd place in the championship is right now 1st place, but we're reckoning 3rd place should be the deal sealed for Brendan Hawkin here, so should be an quite interesting last few laps here, because we might see Hawkin try for that podium position to get himself that championship W.
We've seen already one attempt today completed through the Ulman Straight. We'll see if anyone tries an attempt here as Vicente Salas really trying to arc it on in. Use up as much right side track position as he could, not close enough potentially for the move. At least until the front straightaway. 5 estimated laps to go, approaching 10 minutes on the clock. Will Salas go to the right either way? Yes, he gets a bit of help from John Allen. Side by side up in the sunset bend along with the bumps. Rankin trying to swing it on the high side. Salas to the inside wall. Can he clear? Bit of contact.
Ooh.
Makes it as Rankin just about hits the wall.
They were so close with interlocking with each other, 36 and 012. If that would have happened, they would have most definitely crashed to the outside wall, but here comes John Allen for the lead to the inside of the 36 machine. He's running out. They are touching now as well.
And now Salas off in the dirt. Everyone's in the dirt. Salas up to the lead. Allen now with a hard break. 3 wide. As Rankin sends it. Salas gets turned. Hartley with a broken right front tire. Several more check up. What a move and what a crash.
Wow. Brendan Hawkin as well keeps his car clean there. He is dropping back though a little bit. Now he is getting challenged by Shaman's Torres. They are side by side with ahead. Nico Velomi and Robert Hartley side by side. Seems like Robert Hartley was able to avoid any sufficient damage to his right front as he is still continuing to race at speed. But this has obviously also opened up quite the gap to Elvis Rankin, who is continuing to lead.
Now the right front appears to have popped back onto his car as Nico Arilomi now trying to get on by. That has really just changed the complexion of this race. It's 1.7 seconds now from first and second. Now 1.9 seconds with Hartley playing defense. Keep in mind, his teammate is now running away with the race lead after that big dive 3 wide into turn 3. This whole pack is going to need to pass him and fast.
Oh, here comes Nico Velomi to the inside.
First of the drivers on by in the BRT machine, so Nico Arilomi looking for his best run all season now. Torres, the next car behind, is now starting to make his moves after saving all race. Brendan Hawkin with his clean car also back there. John Allen, Fernandez, and Salas still also all within reach. They've already fallen back more than 2 seconds from Rankin in all of this.
Yeah, and Robert Hartley probably going to drop now quite heavily because Nico Velomi, that was just on car speed as well. As here now comes to the inside, Shaman's Torres, as he's going to take away 3rd place here from Robert Hartley. And Robert Hartley just so much damage to that right front aerodynamically that he is really slow on the straight line.
And potentially the axle as well with the new damage model on this car, as now 4 estimated laps to go. Is there going to be enough time to close up 2 seconds, you feel?
Normally I would say yes, but it is Elvis Rankin up ahead, and we saw what a phenomenal drive he can do when he is alone at Okayama. So Elvis Rankin, he might be safe, he might not be safe, depends on if he makes any mistakes right now up front.
Hartley's already on shuffle to 6. Allen already looking to fight and nearly spins it.
Now a little bit of a bump in behind Juan Manuel Fernandez and Vicente Salas, as now here comes John Allen on the stricken car of Robert Hadley. Should be easy dining here for Allen in the 101 right now, and there you go. Robert Hadley actually knows what's going on, and he did brake early to let John Allen by.
And it's going to be important for some of these drivers to keep a clear mind, you'd have to think, right? Especially since it's push time. If you are listening for Torres's car and company, needing to get up to this race lead, have any shot to take away that lead from Elvis Rankin after that send.
Yeah, but they are slightly closing in on a difference up to Elvis Rankin. They started this lap on a 2.094. They are now to 2.066, so ever so slightly are closing in to Elvis Rankin. Obviously, that is going to grow the margin that they're catching once they get into the draft of Elvis Rankin. But I'm starting to feel it might just be a little bit too much to overcome, as we still have 5 minutes roughly to go.
I mean, we've seen a gap of what, about 1.6 seconds eaten up before, with about 3 cars in line. That's basically some of the drivers in that line. It could be down to these sections like the Ullman Straight for a chance here. If they can get within 1.5, it is realistic. It's already gone down a 1/10 of a second down this straightaway. Nico Arilomi in second, starting to build up some distance on Torres and company throughout all this, with 2 estimated laps to go, give or take. That is with 5 minutes now on the clock after that incident.
Yeah, so this lap they gained about 2/10-ish on Elvis Rankin. They're now to 1.816 over the start-finish line here. Actually 1.804 the difference was at the stripe between Elvis Rankin and Nico Arilomi. Expecting about 2, maybe 3 more laps, actually more towards 3 here for these guys. So Nico Arilomi needs to start hustling if he wants that first place, as there is starting to be a little bit of pressure on Elvis Rankin, as he just made a small mistake through turn number 3.
That might actually help these cars get into the draft now. It's down to 1.6 seconds or so in closing. You've seen last sector 1.7. It's coming down a little bit more and more. And especially since Arilomi and Torres are starting to get a little bit more closer. John Allen also jumped the line, got by Brandon Hawken for position. Also hearing Vicente Salas with technical issues now in 7th spot, had issues with shifting with Robert Hartley battling back for 7th. Salas with significant damage. Unfortunate for Salas after what happened to him and Hartley from that battle for the race lead.
The gap has grown once again up to about 2 seconds here through the twisty part of sector number 2. Nico Arilomi seems struggling there a little bit now. I don't remember, I think he was also one of the cars that did take a left side tires as well as Elvis Rankin. So they should be on same-ish tire wear all around the car.
Yeah, they picked the exact same lap as well. Allen, remember, on the freshest out of those tires, approaching 5 laps on his stint. The leaders in the top 2, about 7 laps this time by. Arilomi still trying to close on in, and this is the tough part, right? It's almost a carbon copy to the start of the season at Okayama, where when Rankin built up a gap of 2 seconds, it was hard for the rest of the pack to catch him.
Yeah, and that's just what it seems like right now. Nico Arilomi not really able to close in that gap whatsoever. But also the guys behind Jamas Stars, etc., are not really able to catch Nico Arilomi either, to help him get up to Elvis Rankin as they start across the start-finish line with about 2.5 minutes to go. So that means 2 more laps for these guys to go.
And it's going to be tight, especially if they get to Rankin. That could eliminate a lap if they start fighting Stefan coming to that point, because it was within 3 seconds of that mark. Vicente Salas has also had to come in for damage repair. That's with that lap time by on the total. You see the distance, but 1.6 seconds and slowly closing now. This is a bit closer in sector 2 compared to the last time.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, the draft still goes back to about 1.5 seconds. You're not really feeling it there, but it's starting to push ever so slightly. Pull rather in the MX-5. So yeah, we might see that gap close in really fast in those last 2 laps here if they are not careful, especially if his ranking really needs to push, but obviously at the same time not make any mistakes because he's pushing, otherwise they're gonna catch him even faster.
Big mistake from Ari Lomi. He pushed off into the grass, and that may have cost him a chance to make a move. He was within 1.3 seconds and having a great lap until that moment.
Yeah, that cost him 3/4 right there, and then, but also it continues. Sean Master Stars and Sean Allen in behind. They're not really able to catch him as Brent Hawking goes to the inside, actually outside of Bishop Bend here, around the outside of Johnny Allen. More importantly, tries to get away the 4th place right now. The 99 and the 101 going side by side still through Genevieve and now also into Le Mans.
Gap stays 1.7 seconds down the straight. That is 0.2 less than the past time as they start to shuffle now for position. Ari Lomi in the best position to potentially pounce on Evos Rankin depending on when they come across the stripe. If they get the white or the checker, Brandon Hawkin, Sean Allen still side by side for 4th. Hawkin holding on for now. Allen taking it away. Ari Lomi still following on right behind as they've closed it to 1.5 seconds. Expecting the white this time, they've been able to close it up to a 5-second difference on the clock.
Yeah, Allen a little bit short-sighted right now, only defending his 4th place. He could have done what Brandon Hawking is doing right now and really give a good push to Brandon Hawking. Close that gap up to towards, more importantly, to Nico Arvelomi and get maybe away that 2nd place, but now they're fighting for 4th, about a second behind 3rd place.
Drivers who were fighting Ari Lomi and Torres, who are closing in Sector 2 now for the start of that part of the track. Dark as it's been. Distance, these drivers want to make it about 9 laps. Rankin in the best position to score another victory on the campaign as long as he doesn't make any major mistakes this lap. If Rankin holds on, it will be his 3rd victory of Season 5 of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge for Orion Race Team.
And Hawking with a little bit of a misshift. He's now getting under pressure from Juan Manuel Fernandez for 5th place. Fernandez to the left side of Brandon Hawking. Hawking has the inside though for the next turn. That is a right-hander here at Cunningham Corner, and he is going to stay in 5th, but this obviously has put in a big gap up to 2nd place.
Allen's actually reeled in the battle for 2nd place. We'll see if they try one more draft attempt or if they will start scrapping, knowing that the distance is going to be big. Another 10th loss from Ari Lomi to Rankin.
Yeah, I think at this point Rankin has got this covered unless he runs out of fuel or makes a big mistake through Le Mans and gets a slowdown himself. But other than that, Nico Arvelomi won't have the chance to get up to the back of Elvis Rankin here.
For Elvis Rankin, it took a 3-wide move to take the race lead. As they do, the trap snake behind, he looks to try and secure a 3rd victory of the season. One more corner. This will put him back in the championship conversation. Big points fights behind him between Allen and Torres, but for Rankin, he controls his own destiny. He'll step on the top step of victory lane. He wins at Sebring in the Big C's MX-5 Challenge in the pre-ultimate race of the campaign. Ari Lomi 2nd, Torres 3rd, Allen holds on to 4th, and Brandon Hawkin comes home with the top 5.
A little bit of a fight in behind. James Sharp take away 7th place ahead of Clifford Evan and Robert Hartley. I think they were actually 3 wide over a stripe. No, it actually just looked like that. But yeah, good racing for them also in the back. And Adi Hero able to take away a 10th place.
Driver who scores the last points totals, that time by the stripe officially, is George Fike, 15th position, up 10 spots. Some good battles between Napoleon and Mark as you see across the stripe. 26 cars will finish on the lead lap in total today here at Sebring. Post-race coverage coming up after this. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel from the virtual Sebring International Raceway. Welcome back to the virtual Sebring for the minus 273 post-race show. Whether it's on the real track or the virtual track, minus 273 has one goal in mind. Produce the best racing gloves to get the job done. With unmatched comfort, durability, and style, their gloves will leave your old ones in the dust. Find out how they can help you by visiting minus273.biz. A wild race today and a wild second half sees Elvis Rankin win for the third time in Season 5 of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. Wins unofficially by 1.588 seconds over Nico Arilomi. Romy Torres rounds out the top three today, backing up his victory last week with another podium, while John Allen, the rear-roll driver, finishes in fourth. Brandon Hawkin rounds out their top five. Juan Fernandez finished in sixth with James Sharp, Clifford Evan, Robert Hartley, and Arby Harlow, rounding out your top 10 today.
Caleb Heights finished in 11th place with Anthony Burrows making a ground up very nicely, started in 20th and finished in 12th. The 128 of Thomas Schmidt finished in 13th with Mathieu Hermann in 14th. George Feig, he gained 10 positions to finish in 15th with Otis Adams nearly doing the same from 24th into 16th, and Simon Elpting as well from 26th into 17th. So these guys must be very happy with how their race went. Adam Mariak finished in 18th and 19th, went to Hayden Gober, and another big riser in the field, Ryan Pandisio from 32nd up to 20th.
21st spot goes to Lane Martin today, a quiet one, a plus 10. He had issues with tires apparently throughout the race as Rico Umbra finished in 22nd. Rachel Williams comes home 23rd today. Powell Bremen coming home in 24th. Justin Taylor, after starting shotgun in the field, to 25th. Sabox Prem 26th. 2 laps down with the DNF today is Vicente Salas, while Shane Sullivan spent 2 laps getting a toe done. That finished him in 28th. Rafael Drazek finished with technical issues, 6 laps down, 29th. Jordan Bachmeyer with an incident with Daniel Munoz, 30th and 31st, respectively, Stefan.
32nd went to Dylan Hayes with Jonas Seger in 33rd. Kenny Brady, 34th place, 14 laps down with Rodrigo Capelotto, 35th. And running out your field was Jacques Plord in 36th and last.
That's a look once more top to bottom at your running order as Elvis Rankin celebrates from victory lane, his 3rd victory of the season. Elvis, how are you feeling about this one?
Not good. Not good whatsoever. I just don't know. I mean, it's definitely not the best feeling for the last 5 laps when you're just thinking every single time you go through the one corner. And I can't even imagine now how Brandon felt at race 3 at Road America getting 2 cars on the last lap. But I think it was a really good drive. Just made one tiny mistake, and yeah, I can't apologize enough to Vincent and John. That was going to be such a good race, but it's definitely not the best way to win for me. I like to race really clean, but obviously just a tiny mistake and forced the issue.
Yeah, I was gonna say what happened in the thinking and the processing going through that corner, because of course that's going to be a potential talking point after today.
Yeah, just I think it's going to be, I don't know, it might be 50-50. It seemed like Vincent kind of didn't know that there was we were going 3 wide. I knew we were going 3 wide and John did. So I think it could be 50-50. I mean, I didn't get a penalty in the race, so I don't know. I'm going to talk to Cliff, and yeah, like I said, I can't apologize enough to Vince, and I screwed that up so bad.
On the bright side, and I know this is kind of the silver lining and all that, that put you in the potential positioning with the championship to make things very interesting at Silverstone. You came into today about 30 plus points behind the points leader Brandon Hawken. This puts you potentially in the conversation at the very minimum for second with the 2 drops now. And what's kind of your approach now going to be for Silverstone for the finale?
Clean race, finish ahead of Torres. That's all I'm really concerned about. I really want to get second in this championship. I'm definitely going to put in some hours, put in some practice, and be ready for Silverstone.
Yes, indeed. As real quickly, anyone you want to thank for the run today?
Yeah, Orion Race Team for supporting me all tonight. Rob Hartley for just doing an amazing job as well. We tried our hardest towards the end, but it was definitely a rough race. But yeah, and our sponsors for our team, HVP, Mark, JRT, Joel, my mom, my dad, my grandma, my grandpa for supporting me with all the racing and everything. You guys at GSRC for broadcasting the race tonight, and Big C's Miata League, Clifford for putting the race on, and the live race admin tonight. Yeah.
Congratulations on the victory.
Yeah, thank you.
I was ranking race victory tonight, as mentioned a bit of on a somber note with the troubles today, but Nico Arilomi coming home in second. That's his best run this season, Stefan. He's with you. Stefan.
Yeah, Nico, finally a race that paid off for you the way you probably pictured it. Plus the story of this race, I think you must be extremely pleased with how it went for you.
Oh yeah, yes, I am very happy. I've been chasing this like 2 years now to get a podium in this league, so very happy. These are always like a tough questions to me that I need to remember how the race went, but
Well, Nico, let's just talk about how the pit stop. How were you going into the pit stop? Were you always certain you're gonna take 2 tires, or did you have a little bit of a question mark over it because of how the tires changed?
oh well, yeah, that was actually one thing that my fuel calculator just broke on the start, so I didn't know how much I had to put there. So, but thanks to my teammates who were in the radio, so they calculated the almost correct values for me. So thank you for the teammates.
Yeah. Always good to have those teammates. Now, you said you were chasing this podium for a very long time, 2 years in the making. You were very close already at Road America. How relieved are you that you finally can stop chasing that dream of a podium and really get focused, especially for the last race of the season at Silverstone?
Sorry, I just didn't catch your question, but
Well, now that you have finally made that podium finish, how are you looking forward to Silverstone?
hopefully the win for the next time, of course. But that's gonna be really hard because the league is so tough and the guys are just so fast. So that's not gonna be easy.
Not easy whatsoever, no. Nico, thank you very much for talking to us. Before we let you go, anybody you want to thank?
I want to thank a team, Blue Rose team, and our sponsor, esport company. That's about it.
All right, Nico, thanks for talking to us. Congrats on your achieving of second place here, and good luck for Silverstone.
Thank you.
Nico Lomi, your second place finisher, 2 years in the making for the podium, but now it's Justin talking with John D. Allen.
Yes, John Allen, a very good introduction to this series and a very fun one, as you put it, to our YouTube viewers. John, how would you describe your season debut as a whole today?
You had a little bit of everything sprinkled in there. Cliff I've known about the series for a while, and it just hasn't worked out to jump in, but it's so fun, and I've been in other series that are specific to this car in big fields in the past, and yeah, long time coming. And it's wild, very clean, respectful racing pretty much all around, and I missed a shift in the hairpin early, which backed me up into Brandon, and thankfully didn't damage him too bad. We still both carried on and mixed it up to the end, but the best stroke of luck was nailing the pit stop with no practice on that in this series, and coming out after risking. I wanted to come in early, and every time I was behind somebody that pitted, I chose to stay out another lap because I didn't want to risk getting into them in the braking zone. I wanted to maximize the pit stop efficiency, and I think on that end, the only one that got me, who finished the race with enough fuel, was Brandon on the in and out on the pit. So that was a key part to it, and there might have been a little more dancing to do at the end, but unfortunately a little bit of a bump and bruise on the way.
As our director told us, very smart, and that sounds very smart with the pit entry, but have to ask you this: with the battle 3 wide, you were among that battle for the race lead with Vicente Salas and Elvis Rankin. What happened from that perspective for that race lead, in turn that led to a lot of bumping and bruising that you just referred to?
I think it's just I had a clear view of being the middle car of a 3 wide. I know the situation. Elvis put himself in that situation, so he sees it as well. Vicente might not have known he had 2 on the inside, so that limits the space that Elvis and I can use, and couple that with the fact that Elvis might have got in a little bit hot. More importantly, just kind of caught that curb in the wrong way, and it pushed him further out. I do think that move can be done 3 wide, and we had a little cushion behind us that it probably would have worked out and been a great a great watch, but we'll never know, because that curb treated Elvis harshly and kind of pushed him out into the rest of us. But at least Vicente finished the race in incredible pace without a bumper, and I was glad to get back onto the front pack near the end as well.
Of course, with the new update as well, want to ask this as well is, of course, you have lots of real-world experience, but the new update also changed how the tires feel in this car with the tire model, as well as some of the sounds in the car, etc. How would you describe this MX-5 compared to how it drives to your real-world car for the Mazda MX-5s?
I think the changes were subtle in the most recent build. Everyone talks about how understeery it is early on, and that's certainly true. But even though I just jumped in the ND chassis, this car this afternoon for this race, I was playing around with the old Legacy NC on some setups yesterday, and I think that in long term it's going to be great, because every adjustment matters. We're kind of equal weight now when it comes to bump and rebound and rake and pressures and temps. It used to be, if you dialed in pressures and temps and kind of maxed everything else, you'd have a pretty quick car. But it's nice now that a car this basic and slow comparatively to all the other stuff on the service still is going to have, setups are still going to matter immensely. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, and drivers were talking about that, especially with the baseline used for this series. But real quickly, anyone want to think for the run for today?
For the series being put forth at all, I know it's a lot of work to run a series. I've been involved in some other ones at different levels, but never kind of orchestrating the whole thing. So, big kudos to Cliff for that. And it looks like, pretty well established. The racecraft at the pointy end was really good. And that's what you want out of a product like this. So thanks for you guys for putting it on. I miss being on GSRC. It's been 2 or 3 years. Used to be on here a lot. So that was a nice, return to familiar spaces as well.
Congratulations on the good run today, and I believe our director Sean Ambrose definitely pumped up with how you did today as well. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, Sean. See ya.
Sean says great to have him back, and great to see John Allen with a good run today. Brandon Hawken comes home with the top 5 today. He's with Stefan in a good position to secure a title next week.
Yeah, without the drop points, he would have clinched it already here today by a single point. But the way it looks, he hasn't by the drop points by just 2 slim points. So we still have an open championship by my calculations, Brandon. How would you summarize today's race?
Wow, it was definitely an eventful one. Of course, with iRacing, with the new tires, everybody getting used to that, and just a lot of craziness going on in that top pack. So, yeah, we're just trying to survive it, and then yeah, that worked out. So, yeah, not quite the position I wanted to be there at the end, but you know, it's a solid finish, and hopefully we can round off the season with another solid one, and hopefully take home the championship.
Yeah, hopefully, from your point of view, most definitely. Now, we had a little bit of a talk going on during the broadcast about the tires. Were you always certain that 2 tires on the left side are going to be the thing, or did you have a little bit of a question of taking tires at all because of how the tires have changed in this build?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I did a little bit of an experiment, and it was actually really surprising to see that tires didn't really do anything. So I took them just because I felt like they had maybe a little bit of an edge, especially like just coming out of the pits or after a couple laps. So yeah, I ended up taking 2, but yeah, really the tires hold on a lot better than they did before. So you know, I just yeah, just looked at both of my race times when I was testing, and you know, I was just like, okay, you know, they're both around the same, but 2 feels maybe a little bit better, so I'll just go with 2 today. And yeah, but yeah, the tires they really don't fall off at all like they used to. So yeah, I think the side that you choose probably won't matter as much anymore. But you know, it's I don't think it really changes anything as far as the race goes.
Well, that is most definitely going to be interesting heading into next week. Silverstone Legacy it will be. Quite the difference from Sebring. How are you preparing for next week, especially knowing that it's going to be the championship decider?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I'm a lot more familiar with the newer layout of Silverstone, so I'll have to do quite a bit of laps there at the historic one. But yeah, you know, it's just got to hold on. It's been a really great season, and yeah, you know, if I can, like, I'm not aiming for a win, but if we could do that, that'd be great. And just, you know, yeah, just gotta keep her smooth, keep her clean, and hopefully we'll come home with it.
Yeah, should be extremely interesting there. The last race, 1 week time, it is going to be, as said, Silverstone Legacy Circuit. Brandon, before we let you go, who is getting it done for you?
I'd just like to thank all my teammates in Global SimRacing, you guys in the broadcast booth, Clifford for the series, all the series sponsors, and yeah, James had a really good run tonight, so good for him. And congrats to Elvis on the win. Yeah, once we got battling there, he was just gone. So yeah, congrats to him. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Most definitely. Brandon Hawking, your 5th place finisher here today. Justin, this is set up for glory for Silverstone.
It's going to be an entertaining one, absolutely. On that mark, we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action from Sebring. We'd also like to thank Clifford Eben and Big C's for organizing this drawn series, as well as its sponsor, Sim Experience, SHH Shifter, as well as -273 and Pitbox.io for their support of this series throughout the campaign. On that note, we'd also like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for broadcast listed up on screen now, with additional thanks to Jude Luan, who provides your wonderful music on screen for how to get a hold of all the great work. Thanks as well to the team today and Stefan and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check the merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormby.com. Or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, one word, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. Don't forget to head over to YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a moment of the Global SimRacing Channel. As talked about, the next race of the campaign heads to Silverstone for the finale. It goes to the classic circuit. The question's going to be, who will come away with the championship and who will come away with the second and third place hardware and prizes? Find out at approximately 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the Global SimRacing Channel for the final round of Season 5 of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. We also have upcoming races for other series now listed up on screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down in your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.